Welcome to the Traceless podcast. This podcast is dedicated to inspiring and teaching women to walk with Jesus in the fire. I'm Jess. I am your host, and I cannot believe I am here with you guys right now. Traceless has been a long time in the making. For those that don't know, I actually did this exact podcast. Wasn't really called a podcast. We just posted it on YouTube almost 7 years ago now. God gave me this dream and this vision for this brand Traceless. And at the time, two of my amazing friends helped me launch my website. I did blogs, videos, and then kind of went radio silent for the last 6 years. And I just have felt that release from God that it's time to bring Traceless back. Before I dive into the meaning of Traceless, let me introduce myself to anyone who is watching and listening that doesn't know me. I am married to the most incredible husband. His name is Everett. I don't feel like I'm old enough to be married to someone for 10 years, but this December, we're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary. It's wild. Those that know my husband and I know that he is literally the perfect balance for me. I am, I play it safe, and he is the adventurer. He is the fun in my life. He loves to do scuba diving. And, he's just the perfect balance for me. A little bit more about me. My husband and I have been walking through a season of infertility the last several years. And, for anyone that's watching that is trying to conceive, that might be waiting a little longer than you expected to get pregnant, I completely understand where you're at. We have walked through infertility for almost 4 years now, and it's felt like an eternity at times. Throughout the 4 years, we've experienced a miscarriage, which I'm going to share on another podcast a little bit more about that God story. And then we started fertility treatments, and that's led us to doing 3 IUIs. And then last year, we made the big leap to try IVF. And it has been a journey. And that's another thing that I'm excited to get into at a later time. But it definitely gives you context for my season. I wouldn't quite say that I'm on like the mountaintop of mountaintops. I think that God has me in process, and I just want to minister to my audience from this place of waiting, this place of tension. But a little bit more about me. I am also a pastor at the best place in the world, City of Life Church. You can Google us. We just have amazing leadership there. My pastors are incredible. And I've had the privilege to be doing ministry there for almost 10 years as well. So it's like 10 years in ministry, 10 years of marriage. I'm also an unashamed, avid pickleball player. I don't exactly know my rating, but I love pickleball with a passion. I play about 3 to 4 times a week, and it just is the perfect balance of, working out and fun. And so if there's any girls on here that play pickleball, hit me up because I would love to connect with you. And I think one last really interesting fact about me, and I think it makes what we're going to do on this podcast so beautiful, is that I am so blessed to be surrounded by a community of women that are unlike anything I've ever heard of. I really do think the corner of this world that I get to live in and the women that I get to know are quite literally some of the most special, godly, beautiful women on this planet. And they just so happen to be some of my best friends and people that you're going to get to hear from later on this podcast. But let's go ahead and talk about what exactly does traceless mean? Because I know what some of you guys are thinking. Is this a true crime podcast? No, it is not. Traceless is not, for the crime junkies. Traceless is a God revelation that came to me, like I said, in 2018. And it's about the story found in Daniel chapter 3 regarding Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And for those that are unfamiliar with this story in Daniel chapter 3, I'm just going to quickly paraphrase it for you, break it down. I encourage you to read it on your own time. But this is going to give you great context for what traceless is. So in Daniel chapter 3, we read about these 3 Hebrew boys. Earlier on, we learn that they were taken into Babylonian captivity. They were there not of their own accord, but because of their obedience to God, they grew in favor and they grew in rank. The Bible specifically says that they were in high positions by the time we see them again in Daniel chapter 3. And at that time, there was this evil ruler named King Nebuchadnezzar. And he had asked, you know what, everyone around here is going to fall to their knees, and I'm going to command them to worship this golden statue that I have set up in my image. And he basically said, anyone who does not kneel to this statue of myself will be thrown immediately into a roaring furnace. And what do we see? We see everyone bowing except Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they got called out by King Nebuchadnezzar and his officials. And he basically told them, hey, if you don't respect my gods, if you refuse to worship this golden statue, you're going to get thrown into the fiery furnace. I'm going to give you a second chance to change your mind. And their response is so beautiful. They said, you know what? Your threat means nothing to us. Go ahead, throw us into the fire. Because you know what? The God we serve can rescue us from your roaring furnace and anything else you might cook up. But even if God doesn't rescue us, it wouldn't make a bit of difference because we will not worship or serve the gods that you want us to. And so, of course, we read on that these young men get thrown into the fire. But that's not the end of their story. We read here in Daniel chapter 3, King Nebuchadnezzar jumps up alarmed as he's looking at the fire and he says, hey, didn't we throw 3 men bound hand and foot into the fire? And he said, look, I see 4 men walking around freely in the fire, completely unharmed. And the 4th man looks like a son of the gods. And then this is where traceless comes from. Listen closely. The people gather around Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they discover that the fire hadn't so much as touched the 3 men. Not a hair singed, not a scorch mark on their clothes, not even the smell of smoke on them. They were traceless of the effects of the fire. And that is the message of traceless today. I don't know about you, but I've been around people who smell of the things that they've gone through. Just go with me here. Like, you're with someone and they just are talking. It's evident on their life that what has happened to them, what they have gone through, is affecting them today. It could be decades later, and yet they still reek of the fire that they have walked through. In my own journey, on the other side, I've had the privilege to sit down and build relationship with women who I often am amazed to hear what they have gone through, because what they are presenting is this life of wholeness and freedom where I'll sit down and have coffee with someone and I'm like, wait a second, you went through that? Hang on, you are still going through the fire? You're going through this suffering? I had no idea. How are you even breathing right now? And every time it would always end up pointing back to Jesus. And as we read in Daniel chapter 3, that is what, the story is alluding to, is that there is this fourth man in the fire that is considered to be this Christ-like figure, Christ himself in the fire with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And when I talk to these women, that is what I see on their lives, that they've been through a fire, and yet it was so evident that Jesus was with them in the fire. And let me be so clear right now that I'm not talking about perfection. This is not about you faking it until you make it and you just present this version of yourself that's just not true because you're crumbling on the inside, you're depressed. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is this grace that allows you to walk with an inner peace that is visible from the inside out. You can still be messy. You can still be broken, but there is an unshakable quality to these kind of women that I am talking about that is so beautiful. And it reminds me of that Traceless message. And on the flip side, I've had women just like that I see, wow, they are just traceless of the things they've gone through. I know that they still carry pain. I know that there are scars, but their lives represent Christ so well. And I've been so privileged to be surrounded by these kinds of women. And I can think of so many circumstances, so many times where these women have blessed me. I remember back in 2022 when we had our miscarriage, we had just, gone to a family trip with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law and our family, and told them the news that we were pregnant and just celebrated like God did it. Because at that time we had waited already almost a year and a half to get pregnant. And, shortly after I began to miscarry. And I remember feeling that weight of depression fall on me, that despair and hopelessness. Like I got my hopes up and I am severely disappointed right now. And I'll never forget my sister saying, hey, I'm going to stop by and I'm going to drop you off some things. And I said, that's fine, but I don't want to see anybody right now. So you can leave it at the door, but I'm going to stay inside and be depressed. And I remember she was just so sensitive to the Spirit. And we're going to share more of this story on the next podcast. But just to give you context, she came and she brought me these beautiful lilies and ministered to me in such a deep way that night. That was a Traceless moment where I know the things my sister has gone through. I know the things that she struggles with and deals with, and yet she went outside of herself to come and show up for me in my pain. I think about one of my close friends who created an IVF care package for me before I left for Colombia for 3 weeks. Like, that's sisterhood. I mean, I'll never forget when my pastor just got done exhorting on stage, got down off the platform and went immediately to me and laid hands on me and prayed over me in this season of waiting. Those are the kind of women that I am talking about right now, that I don't know what I did to deserve it, but these are my people. And they held space for me. And today I just want to hold that space for you. I believe that when you journey with God, This is the kind of effect that you can have on other women, no matter the current difficulty that you are enduring. Let's be honest, a life lived with God is not guaranteed to be free from the fiery trials of life. I'm just going to point that out right now before you get your hopes up. If you are a newer Christian and thinking, hey, now things are going to be really easy, Jesus went through suffering. Christians go through suffering. We live in a fallen world. But I believe that in the middle of your suffering, God can use you. We know it's not about if we're going to go through the fire. It's about when. But I believe that through trust in God, it is possible for you to be traceless of the effects of that fire on your life. It does not have to define you. And that is the purpose of Traceless. I want to inspire women to come along on this journey of trusting God. Let's discover Jesus in the fire. And eventually we can be free of that smell of smoke on our lives. I just want to encourage you that if you're walking through, Psalm 23 calls it the valley of deepest darkness, just know that you are not alone. I know very well what it is like to walk through the valley of deepest darkness. The last 6 years of my life have been filled with high highs and low lows. Some things I never thought I would ever go through. And yet Jesus was there for me. Community was there for me. And I want to equip you now with the tools to navigate these difficulties with Jesus and to give you hope that there are brighter days ahead. I'm still in my waiting season, but I am more confident than ever before that God is going to be faithful to his promises for me. I've seen it before, and I know that he's going to do it again. So if you're hearing anything from me today, just know I see us almost like having coffee together, and I'm stretching my hand over the table to you saying, you can do this. We can do this. You are not alone. And let me tell you, I'm so excited to start this journey with you. And it's not just going to be me on this journey with you. I'm going to invite my friends onto the podcast, and they're going to preach your socks off, let me just say, because these are some powerhouses, and they have walked with God through some unimaginable things and have seen God's goodness despite it. And next week, it's no surprise, I'm going to have my sister, my bestie, Sheena Afont, on the podcast. I like to call her the OG inspiration for Traceless. I could cry right now thinking about it because she has exemplified Traceless, and I just cannot wait for her to be on the podcast next week to minister to you. We're just going to share our stories, nothing super formal, but we're just going to let the Lord lead us and encourage you. You do not want to miss it. And we'll share a little bit more about her next week, but just know she's a business owner. She is a pastor. She's an incredible wife and mommy. She's an amazing friend and sister. So that's going to be amazing. And, if this podcast today encouraged you, make sure to tell someone about it. I don't want to be cliche, but post it on your stories. Send it to a friend. Send someone the link, not just to support me, but to encourage somebody else. If something that I said today encouraged you, would you share it with somebody else and let them know what God is doing through Traceless? And also, I would love to hear from you. If you have your own Traceless story, I would love for you to email me. You can email me at tracelessbyjess@gmail.com. Super simple. And tell me your testimony. And I hope to share that one day on the podcast. But that's all I have for you today. It's been a privilege to share my heart with you. And Just remember that whether you have been through the fire, whether you are currently journeying through its flames, or you are about to head into the furnace, this podcast is for you. Until next time, love you.